Okay. Yeah. And share my screen. And I hope it is visible. Hey everyone, welcome to this session. In this, we'll be discussing the front-end system design for the embeddable poll widget. Now here I've taken example of poll widget, but what I'm gonna do is like in general of any widgets that you want to embed in any website, you can use the same front-end system design concepts which we'll discuss here. Um, Before I begin, a brief introduction about myself. If you're not aware, my name is Apoorv, and I have like close to 10 years of experience. Currently working as a staff front-end engineer at Procore. Yeah, so that's a brief about me. And in this session, usually I have it like a discussion. I would appreciate you guys participating in it. That way we can benefit from different kind of perspectives. Okay. And I'll also tell you what are the new concepts that you might not be aware, and I'll demonstrate them. Whatever is possible I can demonstrate, I'll demonstrate. So yeah. um, can someone tell me what do you understand by an embeddable widget or an embeddable code widget? What do you think when you hear this term?
Basically embedding some other website into a consumer's website.
Got it. What are the practical use cases? Why would one want to do that? Any example?
Mm, there are some ads that people try to run. I think that's also embedded, so that can be one use case.
Yes.
uh, Apart from that, like as we have a poll, we're discussing poll widget here, so
Hmm.
this is also one use case of embedding some website into another website, and this
Got
can very well be reusable also.
got it. Got it. Are my browser tabs visible? Tab names?
Yes.
Can you tell from that what else?
Embedded post, like button, iFrame, Twitter.
So basically, we can embed Facebook posts. Like
Hmm.
if someone has posted something and you want to share it on some website, you can embed that. You can embed Twitter posts. You can embed YouTube videos. So basically, anything. These are the actual practical use cases of embedding. There,
Hmm.
where you want some external data source or external UI in your own website. Okay. So, like these are the actual practical use cases. Poll widget is just one of the use case. So I just wanted to make it clear that what are the different use cases. Why would this kind of architecture be there? Why do we even discuss this? Right? Because it's a actual uh, requirement that people do have it. Okay. Now that we know what is the use case, can someone tell me what will be the requirements like for this? So basically, we'll be doing the radio framework. Okay, I'll let me write it somewhere so that it's clear. Radio. So basically, R is for requirements, A is for architecture, D is for data model interface and optimization. Currently, we'll connect the requirements. So I mentioned this in my last session also, and in this session also I mentioned that first of all, whenever a prompt is given, a prompt is like the question, like embeddable poll widget. That's a prompt is given in an interview. You first list down all the things that you can think of. Okay, first list down that, then you can ask the interviewer out of which what do we need to focus on in this interview. Okay, so first, okay, tell me what other requirements that you guys can think.
Just before we get into the requirements, like, is it recommended to write this radio in
No,
while
no,
giving?
no, it's just for your reference. You don't need to write it.
Got it.
If you want to write it, you can tell that this is for my reference. I'm writing it so that I don't forget any
Point.
aspect of the interview. It's totally up to you.
Okay. Requirements.
Anyone else? I see a lot of people.
So basically, related to poll widget, there should be some options
Yes.
amongst which we can vote, and that should be resizable. That should take the size of the container apart from that.
Mm-hmm.
जो आपके से आके ना सूट भेजे थे
Anyone else? Any requirements that you can think of?
multiple people voting at a time.
Multiple voting. Yeah, that we can handle at the back end. Multiple voting at the same time, because in one website or at one place you'll be able to vote.
Yes, yes.
We can do right either single select or
position of
multiple.
the embedding
Someone saying something.
position of the embed
Position of
in
them.
the I
Okay.
meant where it can be embedded.
Okay. 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 What else?
Non-authenticated user also able
Hmm.
to.
Okay, so apart from that, what I think is right, once the user selects, user submits the vote, user should see the results.
Hmm.
Once submitted. Uh, then, so I think in terms of uh, these should be fine, like list of options to vote on. And yeah, the main requirement should be like it should be very easy to embed this.
Hmm.
Ease of embedding. Okay, the poll widget it should be easily embeddable. The person or the company who is using our poll widget should not require to make much code changes in their uh, website or in their code base. It should be very easy. Okay, this is the primary thing that we need to focus on. And one more thing I will tell you guys that what actually we'll be building here is like you have a your own company of pole. Okay, you have a company, let's say poly, you have your company, and in that you provide a service that people can take a subscription. Okay, then they will get their own portal, and then in that they can create their own own polls, and then they can embed it in their website. Okay, so there are two things here. Our main application is the poll application where people create the polls. That is not what we are discussing here. Once the poll is created, now how do you add it to your own website? That is what we are discussing here. Okay, so just wanted to make that clear. Now, in terms of let's say what should we focus on, there's not much here. We can focus on all these things, but if you had to ask some clarifying questions, okay, so one is that you can ask what are the most critical aspects, or what are the most core user interaction that you want to focus on. Okay, so it would be two things. One is like the ease of embedding, which I already mentioned, and second is like the user experience as a voter. So as a voter also, I should be my clients who are using my application, they should not face much issues. It should be very smooth experience. So that's where we'll discuss how we are we going to design our component API of our poll poll widget. Okay. Now another thing you can ask is that like does this widget need to like display the thumbnail of the person who submits it. Now since we are doing it for non-authenticated user, we won't have those kind of things. Okay, but you can keep it as in your component API that whether you want to display the name or the thumbnail of the people, if they are authenticated, if you have the profile photo, you want to describe, show it below their, besides their name, besides their vote. That's one more thing. um, Another thing is that like what is the maximum number of options that we can have. So let's say for poll you should usually have like 5 to 6. That's more than enough. So I'll just add it here. 6 options max. It's again configurable in the portal from where the people will create, but max, let's say 6 options, which is what we give.
Start time and time something.
Start time and time also we can have, yeah, yeah, but that will be configurable in the portal, not much.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Okay. So yeah, these requirements are what we will have. Now, in terms of architecture, now we are done with the requirements. Anything else, if someone wants to add, they can add. Let me know.
But I had a question, like as you clarified that we are discussing about embedding the widget and not creation of the widget, and
Yes,
the maximum options depends on creation of the widget and not it's not
correct.
related to embedding the widget.
Correct. So this will help in terms of rendering. Let's say because if the user, or if the interviewer says that it can be as many as possible, or if the interviewer tells us user can enter their own custom options. In
Hmm.
that case, you require this, but this is just for clarification that
Hmm.
max 6 options, something like that.
Got it.
Good point. Okay, next architecture we'll discuss. In this, the first thing that we need to discuss is the rendering approach. Okay, Um approach. So basically, there are two core things in this system design. Okay, one is the rendering approach. Second is the distribution. If you know these two things, then you're good with these kind of questions in system design norms. Okay, so in rendering approach, whenever you want to embed something from an external website, there are two ways. Can someone tell me, like, how can you do that?
In iFrame, it will do.
Correct. One is the iframe. What else?
You can create an NPM package or something for code.
Correct. You can use an npm package, you can use. Correct.
Yes.
Yeah. So basically, there are two ways. One is iframe, and then second is npm. So in iframe, basically, it will be your own browsing context. Okay, different browsing context. The main difference, I would say. And in npm, if you're using, even you can do it using JS SDK, but let's say npm, different browsing context. Okay, so why does this matter? Like, so let's discuss what will happen in the iframe based architecture. Okay, so for iframe, you will basically add, let's say, I'll talk about how exactly it will look like in terms of code. Okay, let me show you that. So if I go here, right, let's say if I go even here, so this is one of my YouTube videos. If I want to embed it somewhere, if I go to share and I click on embed, you will see this. Okay, it uses iframe. Okay, so like this, you will have some width, height, the source. Okay, title. Then there are a couple of more attributes. Okay, which are there. So and again, you can, if you want, you can add like start at. It's configurable basically. Your iframe. What do you say? Attributes are configurable. So here in the URL itself, you added, let's start at this many seconds, or this many milliseconds. I don't know. Maybe it's milliseconds. So if you want to add those kind of things, you can add that. And then you want to show player controls. You don't want to show player controls. Again, for that, that will be some attribute. Let's see what it is. Uh, okay, I don't see what's getting removed or added. Okay, controls. Okay, so it's there controls. So usually, whatever you want configure, it is done via URL. If you see here, okay. So usually, whatever you want to configure, let's say you want to add control or not, you want to start at particular moment, all those things are done in the URL itself as a param. Okay, why? Because in iframe you are restricted by the attributes that you have. So if you want to do some configuration, you will do it via the URL itself, so that your app can take care of it. It will parse it accordingly, and it can understand. Okay, what do I want to render? What do I don't need to render? Okay, so this is one thing, and similarly we have for this what do you say, post Facebook post. So here if I do, there are two things. One is iframe. For some reason I tried this, but iframe is not loading. Another way is JavaScript SDK. Okay, but again this will eventually render an iframe only. This is just another way of showing it, but eventually this will show the iframe only. So we'll talk about this when we come to it. And similarly, there is for Twitter. So again, this is not Twitter's own. This is some other company which uses which will embed your tweets into it. But again, it uses the JavaScript SDK approach. It doesn't use the iframe. But internally, it is going to inject that uh, JavaScript code is going to inject an iframe only. So, so I'm telling you, there is two ways. One is your iframe, another is like directly in the same context. And if you want to do the iframe, there are two ways: directly use the iframe iframe element, or use a script, which you can call as JavaScript SDK. Okay, so coming back over here in iframe now, for iframe, what are the pros and cons? Okay, so okay, I can just mention here. Let's use iframe uh, element, or use script SDK that injects the iframe. Now, if you want more control, you can use script SDK. Otherwise, iframe is fine. Okay. Usually, I have seen companies giving both. If you saw here, uh, if I do get code, it will give both options. Even though like iframe is not appearing here, but JavaScript SDK and iframe both options are available. Eventually, it is going to be iframe. That JavaScript code will run and create an iframe. Okay. So one is iframe, and in that, let's discuss about the pros. So what do you think are the pros if you do an iframe? Anyone can tell?
CSS conflict also they can.
Correct. So there will be no CSS conflicts. And can someone tell me why?
because they both are different environments.
Hmm. Basically, parent CSS, basically the parent container CSS, parent container CSS won't interfere with the whole widget CSS. Okay, and this is important if you don't want people to be able to customize their widgets. Now, out of the box, you can give some options where they can customize, let's say, theme or primary color, secondary color, some kind of customization you want. You can give it via the iframe URL. Okay, you can do that, or even in just script SDK, you can give them the options that they can configure the theme. But if you don't want to completely customize your whole widget, you want your brand consistency. For example, in YouTube, if you want to embed YouTube, they would want their brand consistency. Similar for Facebook, similar for Twitter. This is how your Twitter widget should look like, right? So if you want brand consistency of your own polling company, okay, then you should go for iframe, so that it doesn't interfere with your CSS and stuff. But if you want people to be able to customize, then you don't choose iframe, then you choose the direct mm, what do you say, direct JavaScript component, like some sorts of a custom element or something like that. So I will come to that, but currently we are discussing for iframe. Now, um, what else? Any other pros for iFrame?
It can be used by a wide range of audience. Let's say WordPress users, other users can also use apart from the JavaScript framework users.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah. So why not yeah. WordPress, any other, like, I don't know what other there is, but like there are multiple basically
No
pros
good.
of JavaScript. If your website, if your company, whoever is consuming is their website is not built on JavaScript framework like React or Next or anything, then also they can use the iframe, use your poll widget. Anything else? So one thing I can say, it's simple to add. Okay, you just need to add an iframe in your HTML code. Okay, you only have to edit your index HTML. That's all, nothing else. So I would say simple to add. Another is like your JavaScript environment is not affected, because let's say in your parents global there is some variable, and in your own pool widget JavaScript environment there is some variable which has same name. Okay, then it could be an issue. So that's why if you are injecting it by iframe, both have different context, so it won't be an issue. Okay, so separate JS environment. So uh, global context is not interfering with each other. So these are the pros. Anything else if you want, let me know. I'll add. This is what I can tell as of now. Uh, what are the cons?
It may increase the load time.
Yeah, so performance is one issue because you're literally loading another website inside your website. So performance, load time,
Data, like what do you say, data movement from iPhone to your own browser, right?
data movement.
Fast.
Yeah, state management. You can say state management.
But
Uh,
Apur, why is load time performance an issue? Like we making an HTTP request to fetch something from the web, and we are rendering it inside of an iframe.
correct.
So any which ways we are also making an API request from our website to fetch some API to make some API call. So that's come very much similar to it. So why is that load time is a problem here?
Got it. So see, your iframe is loading from some other domain. Your own website is loading from another domain. If it was part of your own website, once your website is loaded, it comes along with that. The code comes along with that. But here you are making two different HTTP requests to get the UI itself, to render the UI itself. So that's why performance will be an issue. You, if it is embedded in your own website using some npm package or something like that, you make only one HTTP request to get the HTML, CSS, JavaScript. Again, like if it's a React, it will get the JavaScript bundle and then it will create and all. But
Hmm.
in case of iframe, you are making two requests, two different domains, and the other domain, poll widget domain, is not under your control. Like you can't do it at distribution, or you can't have any control on that. uh, if you have your own company and your own website, you can configure, where are your customers, in which region you should deploy and stuff. For poll,
So
it's totally up to the company who is providing you the poll.
So can we generalize this point? Like it could be, it could not be, because there could be a CDN which provides you the content very, very fast at some place, and there could be you could be sitting at some place where the content is provided after some time or after some delay, and the performance takes a hit. So can this point be generalized, and is this not very specific to where the user is located and
it
stuff like that?
it is specific to, because you are loading it as a separate website. You should consider this as a two separate websites.
Hmm.
So you are making two different HTTP requests. So this is very much relevant to the discussion, because if you don't mention this point, and if you basically, this is one of the cons. If what you are thinking is that it won't matter, but I'm telling you it will matter.
Hmm.
because if it is in the same, if it's an npm package I'm using it in my own code, it doesn't matter, because the npm package code, everything is in my node modules, and it's exactly in my code. I'm making
Hmm.
only one http request to only one domain.
Hmm.
So the performance will be an issue. Like, I'm not saying it will be worse,
Hmm.
it will be different, it will be two different requests, and you need to definitely mention this really important point actually. You can
Okay.
discuss that if I distribute my poll in in different edge locations, it will be still fast, but still this is one of the concerns, because you can't distribute like in the entire world, right? You will
Uh,
choose the places that you want to use. Any other pros, cons, any other discussion?
Uh, I can think of security because
Yes.
we don't know how the what data will be loaded in the iframe or something. So there can be a security risk there.
I would say it is a pro, because your iframe won't be able to do anything to the parent.
But let's say if we like we have added a post message email listener, right?
Correct,
But
correct.
in that data, if they
Mhm.
send something
But if I,
different,
yeah, correct. Okay. Uh, okay, correct. Your point is correct. So what happens is in iFrame they send the post message, okay, and they will send it on a message event, and on our parent side we'll be listening from the message. Okay, that's okay. On event message, we then our code will be there, that if I receive this, do this. If I receive this, or I do this. So in that case, the receiving side, the parent side, in that code, in the handler, message handler, they will write that if the message type is this, then do this. If the message type is this, then do this. If it doesn't match the message type, then it will just reject the message, or it will ignore the message. So that way you can do the prevention of any kind of attacks from your iframe. But this is a good point you can discuss. Okay. I won't consider it as a pro or a con, but you can definitely discuss the web security aspect. So yeah, I think these would be the pros and cons. Yeah, another con which I already mentioned, like in pros, that parent website won't be able to customize. Website won't be able to customize. People. Okay, now you can leave it up to the interviewer. You can ask them what is the requirement. Is the requirement that the user should be able to customize, or is it they should not be? Based on that, you can go ahead and choose. You can, but you can lay this out that for iframe, these are the pros, these are the cons. Now, what do you think? What is the requirement? And the interviewer will tell whether I want to customize or I don't want to customize. Okay. If he says I want it to be customizable, then you have to go with another approach. Okay. Um, so yeah, so before going to the another approach, let me also talk about the uh, basically two common ways to get the iframe. One is like the um, iframe I told. So another is JavaScript SDK. Here, what will happen? You will have one div, okay, where you are going to inject your iframe, and then you will have a script, okay, which will have your source and it will have everything. Now, wherever you want the plugin to appear, okay, you will add another piece of code where you can pass data attributes like data href, data width, data show, and any kind of custom attributes. Maybe you want to give some customization options to them, okay, theme or something like that. All those you can pass using this data attribute. So this is another way of creating iframe. Okay, so one is directly with iframe, another is with the JavaScript SDK. So if so, why when will you choose which one? Like that question should come in your mind. So basically, if you want more customization, then I would say go with JavaScript SDK, because then the user can pass the options via the data attributes. Uh, but if you want like if you have fewer options and stuff, they can be accustomed in the URL itself with the query param, just like we saw in the over here, right? Here the controls and the start, but they are appended in the URL itself, in the source URL itself. If there are just couple of them, iframe is fine. If there are more options that you want to provide for configuration, then use JavaScript SDK. I hope that is clear. Then next is like render within the page. Okay, so one option was iframe. Second, I will let me just reframe this: render within the page. Render within the page. Let's say via npm, or that can be with anything. Now, what are the pros for this, right? Rendering within the page. So one pro is that it is faster. Okay, it will be faster to render. What else? Another whatever is cons of first one, that will be the
More
pro.
customizations
Yeah, exactly. The customization.
and easier data transfer within the code, right? So because you use it as a component of package, so you can use your state variables or something like that easily with this component.
Correct, correct. So one was easily customizable, able, and the another point that you mentioned is like easy statement. Complex, I would say here, complex. So basically, whatever is the con of this becomes the pro of this. Usually, that's not the case, but in this case, it is. So, and what would be the cons?
Um, I had one question. Like, you just wrote complex state management for pole to parent in case of iframe. Is it even possible? Like, I do not have any experience with iframe.
Post messages, you can manage the state basically.
Okay, okay.
One con that I can think is that you have to be like, if there is any version change or something like that in the package, you have to keep updating your package, otherwise it can break things. If there is a major release by the developer, it can break your existing code. Let's say if you have some states or types or something, and those types changes, so you need to be make sure that you check your code before upgrading to the latest versions and stuff.
Got it. But that will be. I'm thinking whether that's a con for NPM or iFrame, because see, in NPM you will have the exact package version in your thing, right? So unless you upgrade, nothing is going to break.
Hmm.
In iFrame, you can choose versioning. It's up to you. You can like have version. And that is what is recommended. But if I see the Facebook one, I don't see any versioning as such in the URL. Okay, so maybe in iFrame, I think this is a con of iFrame rather, because in iFrame you have your own one endpoint, and if you update the code on yours on your own company side, poll side, then it can break something in the consumer's website. In NPM, unless you update the package, I don't think that can happen. But really good point to bring. Yeah. So that's another thing that you can discuss, right? Let me add over here. Versioning, uh, basically, what is it? Package of UI with. So you can discuss this point. Really good point. Thanks for bringing that up. But yeah, I think that's more of a con for iFrame than NPM because of the reason that I gave.
Uh, Bundle size,
Bundle size, yeah. So your own code's bundle will increase. So that is the.
uh, like uh, like let's say if you install a dependency, right, and
Hmm.
there are a lot of internal dependencies on that, those will be added to your code only, right?
Correct,
So
correct.
like I have faced this issue where I added a library, and the dependencies were clashing with a version of package that I had installed, and there were two versions of the same package in my unlock, and it was causing issues.
Hmm. Got it. So again, but here I am thinking it is a pro or a con, because for NPM you can add peer dependency. Okay, in your npm package you can add peer dependency, let's say React. And if you are using React in your consumer website, it will not create its own dependency. Whereas if you are doing it by iFrame, it will import React for its own context. So again, very good point for discussion, that dependency is, let's see. Now it's up to you for where you want to discuss this, like for pro or con. But as I told, right, for me, both these points that you mentioned, I guess I don't know who were two different person or same person, but both the last point that the last points they mentioned, even though they were advocating it as a con for npm, I'm thinking they are a con for iframe. But I hope you understand my reasoning for that. Okay. I hear your point also, but based on me, if I am discussing this, I would say this is a con for um, what is it? iFrame and not npm. Duplicate dependency, bundle size. Okay, so here also I can mention it. Bundle size might be a concern. And another major one is that your JavaScript environment can be interfering, which is which is a very concerning point for me. Um, Global context may interfere for each other. This is one of the major cons that I would say. Um, Sorry. Now, so for iframe, I told there are two ways. For direct rendering, there are two ways again. One is JavaScript. Like again, let me mention it over here. Via script, you can use normal script tags, script elements, or via npm. Either of those. Okay. So it's not just via npm. You can use script tags for here also. So those are the two ways. Um, but what do you think? Which rendering approach is better? Again, it depends on the requirements. Let's say I want to prioritize that user should not be able to customize. I want my own brand identity. So then I think, what do you think? What is the one which we should go for?
Then it should be iframe.
Life. Yes. Good. So now that we know what is our rendering approach, we can come up with a high level architecture diagram. Okay. So let me create that. So in this we'll have our client, and then we will have our, okay, 1 second. And then we will have our server, client, actually host website. Let me mention it. Host, basically who is going to inject embed our tool, right? Host website. And this is our server, okay? Or let's say provider server, not our provider. And then we have the widget, and so in the server it will. So basically, in our widget, we'll have our poll UI. So we can say, and we'll have some kind of a controller. So the UI and the controller, which will manage the state and talk with our backend. So this talks to this, and again talks back to this. Our controller will talk to the server, and server will talk to the controller. In your server, basically you will have two things. One is the um, API server. So basically your data, right? Whatever data you want to have, all the APIs that you want to expose, to add a vote, to remove a vote, to list the poll, and then there will be another web server, okay, which will render the HTML, CSS, JavaScript, which will send the HTML, CSS, JavaScript. So yeah, overall, I think this should be fine. Anything that I think you guys think I'm missing or you want to add and discuss? Okay, I think then we are good. So
I had one question. Like, when we're discussing around how the poll widget will work, and not around how it's getting, how will it get embed?
mhm.
Is it necessary to discuss while the question is embeddable poll widget?
Yeah, because you will have to also talk about how are you going to do, like what is your API going forward in this discussion in the data model. You will have to
Hmm.
tell the API. So in that you have to have a high level architecture. Like okay, how is actually do I have a BFF in between? Do I have in this question it doesn't apply, but you have to show an overall architecture that how you are going to communicate to the backend and all those stuff.
Got it.
So that for that high level diagram is required.
Okay.
And see, diagramming and stuff you should do only if you have enough time, and you
Hmm.
should do it quick. That's why I did it like very minimal. You can add
Hmm.
multiple things over here. If you want, you can remove the controller part. You can just have host widget and directly you can do this. Okay. I would really recommend to first of all practice using any of the tools like Excalator or something like that, and do not waste time in drawing diagrams and stuff. More time should be there in explanation. Also, whatever I'm writing here, you don't need to write. Okay, I am writing so that for this session it's beneficial for you, and I can share this link with you guys later for reference. But you can keep it minimal. Okay. So another thing that I wanted to mention during interviews, don't need to write this much and all those stuff. But you
Sure.
should write something. That's it. Yeah. So next coming to so we are done with the architecture as such. Coming to the data model. Now before going to the data model, one second I want to discuss. Okay, we can discuss about the performance and those kind of things later. But one thing I want to discuss before going over to data model is like what do you guys know about CDN?
CD.
Refers to content delivery networks. Basically, servers instead of passing the call directly to the main server, there are servers placed close to your locations which serves your request. If the request is not being served directly, cannot be served from that particular server, then the request is moved to the main server.
Got it. Yep. That's a good explanation. Thanks for that. So, whenever you are doing any static assets distribution, okay, like it's your HTML, it's your JavaScript bundle, or your CSS, or your images, you would have definitely heard of it when discussing images deployed to CDN, deployed to CDN, right? So, usually your front end code, whatever is there, it will be eventually a JavaScript bundle, and usually you deploy it to a CDN. Now you would have heard this term deploy to a CDN, but there is more to it than what it seems. You don't deploy to a CDN, you deploy to a origin server. So you might either add it to your AWS S3 bucket or any kind of a blob storage or any kind of storage if you're using Azure or if you're using Google, whatever. So that you don't actually deploy to a CDN, you deploy to a storage service. Okay. And from there, you configure a CDN. And when you configure a CDN, there are multiple things. So I have one day I used Notebook LLM to create one slide so that I want to explain CDN because it is the most widely used term, but most misunderstood. Okay, so let me explain that. Why do we need CDN? Because like your origin server, let's say I told what the AWS storage or whatever it is somewhere. Okay, let's say in this case it's like the user is in Paris and your origin server is in New York. So if they try to access it, there will be network delay. I mean, it might be not be in minutes, but it will be in a couple of seconds maybe, and that's not an ideal use case for you. Okay, you want it to be as fast as possible. So what do you do? Now, what you do is you can't create multiple origin server. That's not what you should do. What you can do is you can connect your origin server to a CDN. Okay. Now, what is a CDN? So basically, there are multiple parts of your CDN. One is your origin server. Second is the edge server. This is the thing that is distributed at multiple places. Okay, and there is a point of presence. Point of presence is are actual data centers where your edge servers are configured. Okay, so basically, if you want to know the difference, yeah, origin server is the source of truth, and edge server is for high speed delivery. So exactly what the person mentioned earlier, that they first try to go to the edge server. If it's not there, then they go to the origin server. Okay, so that's how it is, and the edge server are geographically distributed for proximity to the user. So it will be strategically distributed. Okay, and you can configure that also when you are configuring your CDN. You can configure where exactly you want your CDNs to be there. Okay, um, and then what happens is like basically your user requests, it goes to the edge server. If it's not there, it goes to origin server. Now there are multiple ways, techniques of routing. Like anycast routing is basically like you have a single all your edge servers have single IP address, and the routing is done based on the network hops. Okay, then there is another way which is DNS based routing. Here your CDN has a DNS server. Okay, then it will, based on the geographic proximity and the server load, it will redirect your request on the nearest edge server. And then there was the third one, which is GeoIP based. This is purely on your geography. Like if I'm in some country, which is the nearest edge server, I'll get that. Okay. So these are the three different ways of routing for your CDN. Let me admit something. Okay. And what is like the core of CDN? Like if it's just like propagating request, then why do we need? So the thing is, it caches. It caches your static assets. That's why CDN is really important. So let's say if user first time accesses, let's say I deployed my poll widget, and someone accessed it for the first time. For that person, it might be an issue because they had to go to edge and then go to origin. But now my edge will cache it, and now all other users who are going to access, they will get it fast from the edge server. So that's the benefit that your CDN gives. Okay, and there are two types of what do you say, content delivery. One is pull based. That is what I mentioned. That is what the person who explained CDN also mentioned. That you request for it. If there is a cache miss, basically it's not there, or if it's expired, then you go to origin and then you get it. There's a push based, and that is majorly for people who are basically sending, who have big data. For example, Netflix. Netflix, whenever if you watch, they're like 1 hour videos, 2 hour videos. So videos are huge. If you rely on pull based CDN on that time, it will be a lot for a lot of wait time. So for those kind of things, large files, videos, and all those software distribution like who are in MBs and GBs, for those you can use push based CDN. So what you do is the content owner, he will push it into edge server before even the user asks for it. So user will always get it from the edge server. He'll never have to go to the origin server. So for anything that you're distributing which is large, you can go for push based. And if it is just static assets like JavaScript bundles and images and stuff, then you can just choose to use pull based. So yeah, that's what I wanted to explain regarding CDN, because I see this very much misunderstood topic. Even when I am interviewing people, I have seen they know the word CDN. They know, okay, I deploy to CDN, it will be fast. But how it will be fast, that you should explain in your interviews, especially in system design interviews. So I
So
hope, yeah, go ahead.
I had a question. Like basically, you explained three ways of in which a CDN can be configured. There were three. Yes.
Yeah.
Anycast and DNS and GeoIP. So are these three? We can configure any of the three in our CDN provider, or is it how does this work? Can you?
Yeah, so basically, if these are the three usual routing options that most of the CDN will provide. So
Okay.
of those options, you can choose any of them. You don't have to manually write algorithm for this.
Acha. Okay.
It's up
And
to you.
as you were explaining push based mechanism, why and you gave an example of Netflix, but will like it would have been well, it becomes very difficult for someone who's handling this to push each and every resource to the CDN from their origin server to the edge server. So they must be using some kind of mechanism, some kind of algorithm, machine learning algorithm on basic and figuring out what user wants to see. Or is it that they push all the data on
As far
the
as I think, they will have some system which will be a distributed system, and they will push all the data. I
all
just
the
gave
data?
you an example of Netflix, but
Huh.
ideally they will push because you don't want something, because you don't know what user wants, and there are multiple users, like I think millions in case of Netflix.
Hmm.
So I mean, you will have certain kind of algorithm that that certain things are never seen. Okay,
Hmm.
so which has a very low probability that you might not push right away. But
Hmm.
if you know something which is like releasing newly, let's say Stranger Things, which just had the finale, so for those kind of things, you will push it. So yeah, you will have some kind of algorithm that you want to push and don't want to push. So the point you brought is a good point. Yeah,
Got it. Yep.
cool. Any questions in what is a CDN and how it works and okay. So that was the last point I want to discuss for architecture, that you deploy your assets through CDN. Okay. Um, your HTML, CSS, like basically JavaScript bundle that you deploy to CDN. Then coming to the next part, which is the data model. Okay. So, which is the D in radio. So let me write data. Okay, I should do something so that you know it's a different section. Okay, architecture, and then now we are at D, which is data model. Now, in data model, basically, we are going to tell how our model is going to look like, and this is very simple because it's just a poll. I'm gonna not gonna write it here. I'll just copy it and I'll add it here. Okay. I hope it's visible. Yeah. Okay, it's completely visible. So basically, your state will have like last updated, exactly last when the poll was updated, because it's a live poll. People will be updating it frequently, right? So you need to know the timestamp when it was last updated. Total votes. Then what is the question? What are the options? And whether the user has voted for it or not. Okay. Now you can do two things. Either you can have this or you can have this selected options. So it's totally up to you. If you want to have the selected options by ID over here, or if you want to do it over here. I think this is more scalable because if there are I mean, here there are six options, so it's fine. Like you will just have six of these. But if you want to discuss this point, you can tell that if it's custom configurable, if there are like numerous options, in that case I will go with the selected options array. Okay, so this is how you will have your data model. Any questions here? This is simple. There's nothing to discuss much here, but if you want, if you have any questions, let me know.
Well, it's little different to from what we are seeing, but how will like we also handling non-authenticated users? Uh,
Yes. That part. So the thing is, this part we can discuss in architecture or in optimizations. But I think, yeah, good point. If we can do it in architecture, let's do that. So for Actually, you should do it in architecture. Yeah, thanks for bringing it up. So far, what do you say? Not authentication, fingerprinting.
Hmm.
Fingerprinting. The user. Uh, so usually, if the user is not authenticated, what do you guys think? How can we identify the user? Is there any way you're aware?
Hardware address, IP address.
or token in the request which is being passed.
No, no, we are not authenticating. So we don't want so user who are going to participate in the poll, they are not authenticated. How do you then identify the user? One good point is that hardware address. That is one thing. What else? Why is input selecting? Hmm. Okay. So we can use cookies basically. So when your API responds, you can create a unique ID for a certain IP, and you can send it back. Okay, in the cookies, it will store it in your user's browser, and next time they vote, whenever they send their own vote, it will come with their that ID, and you know that this person has already voted. So that's one way you can do the fingerprinting. Okay, move
But
this. Yeah, go ahead.
even if I send a even if server sets cookie for a user,
Mm,
then I'll have to set a unique cookie for every user.
correct.
And how will I acha some kind of a counter thing.
That you can use UUID package itself. There is no need to.
Ah, okay. Yep, yep.
What did I do? And not able to move this, so let me just write it over here. Use cookies with UUID. Okay, now obviously if the user is using some different browser or is using his own phone and using laptop and stuff, then you can't do it. Then you definitely need authentication. But yeah, that's as far as you can get for fingerprinting the user. Any question in the data model? No. Okay. So
Oh, sorry to interrupt. Will we have like fetching the latest count or getting the very latest data or anything like that, or is it not relevant here?
no, it will be relevant. So that we'll discuss in the optimization part, where basically you want it in real time.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, you can discuss that in architecture also. That's totally up to you. So now coming to interface. Okay. So basically your interface API definition. In radio it is RADIO. So RADI, so interface. So what are the different kind of APIs that you guys think we need to discuss?
Basically, a post request to whenever a user makes a selection.
Hmm.
So in order to get that synced with the server.
Got it. So that is your server API. So we'll dive deep into like what kind of API, post API or yeah, post API will make sense, or get also should be fine. But yeah, but that is server API. Other than that, any other API?
To get the results, there will be one get API.
No, but that is again India server. Basically, your what you guys are talking about, get and post. One is for submitting, one is for getting the list. That is all server comes under server API.
Hmm.
But API usually again, okay, I discussed this in my previous session. I did not in this. So whenever we discuss about interface, it is not just the backend API, because that's how we have learned what is API. API means something that we get from the backend. But API is like application programming interface. In this case, we are uh, we are providing a poll, and we are asking them to inject it via iFrame. So we have to have some kind of an embed API. So just like we saw it over here, right? In this developers or facebook.com, how do you add the widget? That is also an API. Okay. And here it won't make sense, but we also have one more which is known as component API. API. Meaning, if you are having your poll widget, let's say we are designing a poll widget component, then like you will have your level component which will have a submit URL sort of a string. Then in that you will have poll list options. In that you will have poll option item, which will have a key prop, label prop, count prop. So that becomes your component API. That's a separate question. So when you discuss something like create a model or create a type ahead or those kind of questions, in that question you have to discuss component API also. Uh, but here it doesn't matter, because how we are creating the component is not part of the conversation. It can be made in pure JavaScript. It can be a React component. It doesn't matter, because user is going to use the embed API, not the component. He's not going to pass the props uh, randomly, right? If you are distributing via npm package, then you have to discuss component API. Then that will be your basically embed API. So I hope that is clear. Any questions here? Let me know. So for embed API, we can have. I'll just copy it from. This is your embed API. So in your iframe, you can have like src, which will have your website name, and then slash embed slash poll ID, so that you know what is the question and what are the options. Okay, this can be as simple as that. And if you want to configure something more, as I told, right, theme. So let's say and theme equals dark, or and primary color or whatever, whatever configuration you want to give, equals to one, which will be pre-configured. It will be there in our developer documentation that one means this, two means this. Or if you want to give a hex, you can give a hex in a string. Basically, so that's how you can give your API. Okay, so this will be your sort of an embed API. There will be a title. Title is whatever the user wants to give. It's up to them. Um, So this is one way for iframe. And if you want, you can give a JavaScript SDK also, right? If you want, you can give it something like this. Let me also copy that. So either via direct iframe injection or a JavaScript SDK, which eventually injects the whatever. I did not copy properly. It's not coming up. Okay, let me. I'll just add a link so that you guys can refer it. So it's good to give both preferences. That's what I've seen usually people do. Even Facebook does that. I guess Twitter also does that. That you give both approach. Direct iframe API and the JS SDK, whichever they want to use, they can use. So that is in terms of your embed API. Now let's talk about the server APIs that you guys are talking about, get and post. So server APIs. So one is to fetch the poll, first of all, right? So, mm, but I think fetching poll will be done by the poll itself, right? By the so, but yeah, let's discuss what kind of response it will have, right? Uh, get poll, and in here it should return the we already discussed that, like this basically, the total votes and then questions where it should be options, and whether either you can use this way or the a separate array for user voted. Okay, that's either way is fine, you can talk about it. And the other one is the post API, okay, by which the user submits, okay, which can be, or it could also be a get. No, I think the post is fine. Post or also put should be fine. It's totally up to you. Because it's a small update. You are just going to send the selected option, right? So in that you will have your poll ID, or poll ID can be in the URL itself. So, but I'll just mention it over here. Poll ID 723. This can be in the, and the cookies will anyways have your fingerprinting the UUID, so you don't need to pass that. And selected options. So then the list of IDs is option IDs basically. Let's say 2, 3. So this will be there in case even if the user unselects something, it will be same API will be calling. We won't be calling a separate for add and remove. Same API will be calling. Just a second, I need to put the charge. Okay. So I think that should be fine. Now, here also API discussion is not much of a point. Main two discussion that I told we already did. One was rendering approach, and one was distribution. So anything else you guys think we can add here? Get and put. Nope. So here one more thing we can do is that since it's a if it's a live poll, we can go ahead with something like with a real time sort of an approach. What do you think? Should we do WebSockets over here, or is it an overkill?
So is the poll going to be really active? Like, if the user keeps coming and like they, in that case, maybe WebSockets won't be overkill. That's what I
Hmm.
feel.
Got it. So yeah, again, this is a question that you should ask to the interviewer. That what is the requirement? Is it like a live poll that user wants? Because after submitting, he will see the results. And do we want that results to be dynamic? That okay, if it's getting updated, do we want it to show the user in real time? That okay, now it's changed. Now it's changed. So if interviewer says yes, then you can use something like WebSockets or Yeah,
What if we want to change a response here? Then also we need WebSocket, right? Let's say there is no submit button. There are
hmm,
just four options, and we just want to change our option, right? We
hmm,
can do that.
hmm.
Then also we will need WebSocket to update in real time.
No, so what I was thinking is web sockets here might not be needed. You could use something like server sentiments, because
Uh,
for submitting it can be a simple request. See, it's usually when you let's talk about real time. I also discussed this in my previous session. Let's discuss here. So there are multiple options. One is polling. Okay, in polling there are two ways: short polling and long polling. So, but that is like short polling is basically you keep on making a request that is there any update, is there any update. Long polling is like you make a request, then you wait for certain seconds that if there is an update, it will respond. Otherwise, it will you'll make a request again. So that is how we used to do earlier. But then we have something new which is known as server sent events, where you create an event source with the backend, and the backend will keep on sending anything that it gets updated to the front end without the front end asking for it. So what I think here, server sent event makes more sense, because in terms of uh, communication from the client, it's just vote update, and it's not something like a chat application or something video streaming or something like that, where the user is communicating a lot, or it's not even a live collaborative editor or something like that where the user has to update a lot. Here the important part is the server has to update the user that okay, this is the current state of the polls. So I believe we can have a combination of normal post APIs for updating the poll and server sentiment which will keep updating the poll from the server side. What do you guys think?
Yes, makes sense.
Yeah, I
Matlab,
think that makes sense actually.
Yep. Okay.
Even to re-edit the poll as well, I think. I mean, from the UI we can directly do that
Yep.
through Post API again.
Server, we can use SSE just server sent events. But this is a good question that you should ask to the interviewer, that do you want this or not. But you can ask this in the optimization part. You don't need to, or maybe you can ask in requirements, totally up to you. Mm, but you should definitely ask this. Now, other things. Yeah, now we are done with the interface. In terms of optimizations, which is the O of the radio framework, what do you guys think is something that you can discuss here? Music somewhere.
I was thinking something like the optimistic update that you mentioned, right? Like when user clicks on an option, we just update it that he has done, and then make the API call in the backend and refresh the data.
So basically, you're telling optimistic updates, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we can do that. Optimistic updates are a very good optimization over here. Optimistic mistake updates. So just to elaborate on this optimistic update, is like you make the UI change. Let's say if I submit a poll, okay, I immediately see that it's selected, okay, and the API call will then be fired, and it will then be updated later. Okay, it was success or not. If in case it was failure, then we show that option as unselected. Now I discussed the same thing last time in my previous session, that you should go ahead with optimistic updates only when your API is reliable and it has a good SLA of like 99.9% or something like that, right? Then only you should go with optimistic update. If you are really sure of it, that your APIs is up always and it is reliable and stuff, then you should go with optimistic updates. Otherwise, what will happen is user will say it is selected, and then after a second, once the response comes, it will say it's unselected. That is a very bad user experience. So you should definitely discuss this point, that we would like to go with optimistic updates, given that our API or our server has a good reliability. What else? What else do you think? So one thing I
Based
can,
on the
Yeah,
Based on whether we need to allow the user to update the response or not, we need to maintain. Uh, we need to restrict the user to update multiple times for the response.
so yeah, that one thing also I forgot to mention here in this configuration, you can also add like allow multiple. So is it true or false? Okay. So because that was one of the requirements that we discussed. Uh, single select, multiple select. So I think everything else we covered. It. List of options, single select, non-authenticated user, see results, ease of embedding, UX as the voter, max 6 options.
हाँ बट मैं ये सेवियां बाद में खा लूंगा अभी नहीं खा पाऊंगा
Someone is not on the mute. Okay.
One thing about that I can think of is like depending upon how we are embedding it, right? Like let's say if we use iFrame, we can add defer or async so that it is not blocking our page while it's loading. And
Yes.
similarly, I think the npm packages also come with some optimization like this, right? Where when you have them, you can defer some integration. Like if they're calling some internal APIs, they would provide some props to have a defer or async like that, right?
Correct. Correct. Yes, you should definitely consider that. In fact, I think in this they do have it. Uh,
Yeah, we can see on the top script, right? Async defer.
yeah, so this is a really good optimization. So yeah, let me add that also. Uh, if JS SDK distribution use defer and async. Uh, so or async, right? Both is not. So, okay. So let's since we have come to this topic, what is differ? What is async? Can someone tell me the difference?
I don't remember exactly, but defer was that you just load the important parts and you you add defer to the scripts which are not your blocking, right? So you import the scripts that you require for your painting first, and the scripts which are not blocking, you defer it so that the most important part loads first. Your DOM is painted, and then you can load the scripts later on, right? Something like that.
I can give a try.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah.
while HTML, you're parsing your HTML, and let's say you have added a sync to your script, JavaScript script. So as soon as the control gets to the script, it starts downloading it, and in case of async, it also starts executing it, but it stops HTML parsing for that particular moment. Like both parsing of HTML and downloading of JavaScript happens parallelly, but in async it also executes your JavaScript, but in defer it waits for parsing to be completed before executing the JavaScript.
Yeah.
there's also a difference in the order in which the scripts are being executed and async as soon as a script is being downloaded it runs it whereas the order is not being maintained in defer we do maintain the order.
Yes, correct, correct. So excellent point. So async basically will basically what do you say? Fetch, okay, and in defer it will so basically it will fetch parallelly but execute, blocking your main thread. But defer will fetch parallelly and execute only once your HTML parsing is done. Okay, and also in the order of execution also what was mentioned, that's also correct. So yeah, good discussion point. I'll also add here article which will help you guys later if you want. Okay, cool. What else? Yeah. So one thing that I wanted to discuss, right? So again,
So
good.
basically in this case we'll be inclined towards defer because we don't want to block our HTML parsing, right?
Yeah, yeah. It depends. So thing is, let's say if you do go for defer, your entire website is loaded and then your iframe gets rendered.
Hmm.
So it might be a janky experience, might be. So I might go with async.
But in this case, we can add a skeleton loader or something like that.
Yeah,
That to
you
let
can
know
add
the
a loader, but your entire website is not loading. Just imagine your entire thing. It's not your poll is loaded and then you are showing shimmer. Your entire part is not loaded. You can keep that height and width reserved for it. You can show some loading. It's totally up to you. But I think I would go with different. Sorry, async, so that when my website is loaded, the entire thing is loaded. It's not like I'm still waiting. Again, it's totally up to you. You can justify either way. That's the beauty of system design. You have your own choices. You need to be able to justify that choice. Okay. So yeah, async or differ, totally up to you. You can define your own choice. Mm, yeah, one thing. Yeah. So regarding the rendering the pole options. Okay. So there are two ways to do that. Rendering pole options. One is like you show it in terms of percentage, that like exact percentage of votes. So it's like you, let's say, if 10% people have selected one vote, 20% selected one vote, and 80% select one vote, you exactly show that. Okay, that this is how your basically your bar width, your bar will be there, right, in poll. Your bar width exactly shows that. But there's another way also, that you will show it proportionately. So let's say if one vote has got 20% of vote, another vote has got 40% of vote, you show that that option is double the width of the option which is 20% vote.
Mm.
You guys are able to understand? If I let me show you this diagram. So basically, if let's say if I have one vote which is 20% and one got 40%, so I show it like this, that in proportion to this vote, this is double. And another way is that I show it in the absolute terms. Now this discussion you should have at the last. This is like a very minute point, but if you get time, you should definitely discuss. So let's say 40 is this, and then you have other
So in
scenarios.
this case, we'll also have like a gray bar which shows the 100%, right? And
Yeah,
then beyond it, you'll be updating.
yeah. So you can choose either of the approach. You can discuss that with the interviewer, that what is the one which you should prefer. I would say exact percent is what I would prefer. Even I have seen in most of the polls that in Twitter and LinkedIn and over there, I think they prefer the. I think I did a poll once. Let me see if I can bring that up. Because then either it doesn't, like, there is no strong choice for it, but you are able to talk about something which is a choice. You can give that choice to the in the embed API. How do you want to render the options? That also you can do. Let me find that poll that I had created. Sure. Hmm. Just a second. Okay, so this is the poll that I had created. So a month ago, for like starting the front system design series. So here I think there are 75 votes. So yeah, I think they are doing 100%, because see 24, 25 is just 1% difference. So it's like whatever is selected, whatever you selected, you show it in some different color. Others you show it in like grayed out, and then you show exact percentage. So yeah. And actually, I'm following this poll. The first one was newsfeed, so that I did newsfeed, and then second was poll widgets. I did poll widget today. Okay. close this. Okay, so yeah, again you can discuss proportionate proportionate bar width. So let's write 20% for. Once you make things in this, it's difficult to move it around. Okay, no. I think I can. Yeah, I just wanted to keep here because this one is the uh, one which is the first one, exact percent. Okay. Yeah. So apart from this, any other optimization you guys can think? So when you discuss about optimization, you also have to discuss about accessibility and localization and all those kind of stuffs too. So in terms of accessibility, what particular things you guys think we should discuss?
Area labels, but what definite? But okay, yeah, it will be controlled by Paul and not by the consumer. So we must have something to announce to voiceover to
Hmm.
tell the user about the percentages of uh, the options.
Correct. And because like screen readers will not be able to see it based on the bar length, right? So it has
Hmm.
to be having an uh, sort of an announcement. Right? This is basically using ARIA label itself that it is this percentage, right? And
Hmm.
also this is something that keeps changing, right? So for that there is a special ARIA label which is ARIA live. It is used to announce that this has updated now. So if the poll keeps updating, you should use ARIA Live also. Another thing is it is either a radio group or checkbox. So you can use that role, radio group,
Hmm.
and radio and checkbox if you have like based on allow multiple or allow multiple not. Uh, Second is like usually when something is clickable, it's a button. But when we are creating some UI like this, ideally we will use div or something like that. We won't go for button, maybe. I'm
Hmm.
just thinking. So in that case, you also have to give the role button to those kind of elements. Another. So whenever you discuss about accessibility in your front-end system design interview, you have to go to specifics. You don't need to remember the names of exact like ARIA live is something that you should remember, but you don't need to remember all the role names and all the uh, mm, all those kind of things. You just need to know high level like ARIA label. You should know. You should know there is a role attribute. Now, what you give it within that string, that's fine. ARIA Live, you should know that if you want to announce something that's going to be updated, then you should know ARIA Live. Um, then you should know about tab index and stuff. These are all the specific things that you should know about accessibility. That will differ you from a senior and staff because this is where you because I have seen people in interviews in last 5 to 10 minutes we discuss about these things and they just overall mention accessibility, internet, and localization. They don't go into depth. There is where I differentiate whether this candidate is good for CS1 or senior CS1 or whatever. Um,
You also mentioned about radio groups and checkbox. If we are going ahead with one option, then we'll be using role radio group, or else we'll be using checkbox. But if we are going ahead with radio group or checkbox, then do we need buttons as well? And the follow up one more question is that should we use ULLI kind of a structure over here because it's a list?
Correct. You can use UL, LI, and you can go with radio button, actual radio button components and stuff. But what I've seen is people are then limited to customizing that kind of components. That's why they
Mm,
go with div or anything like
mm,
that.
mm.
But in terms of role, you can give it as radio group and yeah.
Got it.
Now, in terms of last part that I want to discuss is the internationalization, or you can call it localization, whatever you want. So basically, there are different languages where they render strings from right to left. Usually, we write from left to right, right? But there are some strings which write from left to right to left. So your app should be able to, your poll should be able to render that. Okay, based on the local, you can identify based on the local or stuff that okay, I need to render it from right to left. And also there are certain countries like I guess Chinese Mandarin countries where they do it from top to bottom. So in that case, you should do that. And similar for bar width, it should go from right to left, right? Those kind of things you should take care in terms of internationalization.
So, as you mentioned about internationalization, and you discussed that there are two type of writing format: left to right, right to left, and then top to bottom also. So there is like, is this enough to discuss about internationalization, or should we also go ahead and discuss about directional properties from CSS,
You
and
can
then
decide
after?
that. Yeah. So it depends on the time. If you have more time, you can go with that. It's there are properties in your HTML elements itself also. You can discuss that.
So I generally have two things in my mind when I discuss internationalization. One thing is HTML pe we have a
Correct,
language
correct,
attribute, and then we have this directional properties.
correct, correct.
Other than this, there is one thing that we can pass to the API, and then we get accepted language from the API response. That is one way. That is one other way for implementing internationalization. These are the three exhaustive points that I have when I
Great.
discuss about internationalization.
Yeah. Thanks for bringing it up. Yeah, yeah. Those are excellent points, and you should discuss if you have the time, because usually this is discussed during last 5-10 minutes. So if you have the time, if you are knowing that point really well, you should definitely discuss this.
So, do people go in depth with these points, or apart from these points, are related to internationalization, or these
No,
are sufficient?
this is as much depth as you can expect because it's a system design discussion. If you are doing implementation, maybe
Okay.
more, but it's a high level discussion, so not required. Another thing is that if you are doing a component API, this
Hmm.
was a sort of an application sort of a thing. But if you're doing a component API, like said, they are asking you tabs system design or design
Hmm.
a modal system design. In that, you can go in even in more depth, like the properties that you mentioned.
Got it.
So is there any place where session will come into place? Like the session is active for at the parent level, not
Mhm.
for the iframe. So will
Mhm.
that have any effect here, or that is not required to think about?
I'm thinking what effect will it have.
So say if I'm creating, I mean, if I'm clicking an option or anything, in that point of time, if the session is not active, or how will we get to know if the session is not active? Or I
Hmm.
mean, I'm not sure if that is relevant. Like I was just thinking, since
Yeah,
we
good,
are
good
making the
point.
API call.
Yeah, even I'm thinking whether it's relevant or not. Because see, whenever we are doing anonymized polls where we don't want authentication, I don't think there is a concept of session in the parent going to be. That's what I'm thinking. Uh,
Okay, got it.
yeah. But yeah, again, yeah, you can discuss that. I think that's a good point. If there is an authenticated user, then you should discuss that.
Yeah, sure.
Look, should be a certain age for this poll, I think, because the poll that
And
comes
yeah,
on.
yeah, we'll configure that in the our own portal. And
Uh,
once it's expired, you can discuss that you can show a completed poll state.
because the cookie that we are setting also has a lifetime
Mm.
inside the user's browser.
Mm, yes, good point. Good point. In optimization, as I mentioned, poll completed state. Poll complete expired. No. Anything else you guys can think in optimization or any part of the radio you guys think anything that we missed or we can add? Because there's a really good point that you guys brought.
Any removal strategy that you are going to think of means when it should be removed?
Removed as in means from the JavaScript or from the website, something like that.
Yeah, means if you are keeping it as a part of build, then we will have to deploy again if we want to remove that complete part. Or from iframe point of view, how is 3 days we can keep it max and then it should be automatically removed. How to do that?
You can do that. So I think that coincide with this point that if the poll is expired, either you show let's say you show the expired state for some time, and then you completely remove the poll because it's no longer needed, right? But again, that should be configurable by the consumer in their portal or in the embed API, that whether they want it completely gone or they want it to be there and it should be like it's expired. But yeah, this also you can discuss. Good point.
There is one more point that people discuss about this is about virtualization of if we have a lot of options
Yeah,
available.
if we had a lot of options, you should definitely discuss that. In
But
this, we mentioned six, so we.
huh, I had one more question related to it. Basically, when someone is interviewing for senior engineering position and he has to discuss about virtualization. Now, is this expected or is this expected across to explain how virtualization works, basically? And nowadays, is this getting more prevalent or more prominent to explain how virtualization is working behind the scenes as well? Is this a norm now?
Yeah, you should explain it in depth. That basically you are recycling the DOMs. You will keep only certain, let's say, 20 elements in the DOM, and then as the user scrolls, we fetch the new elements and we just update the existing DOM elements. You should explain in this high level way. Yeah.
But how does it work behind the scenes? That is that also expected? Like we configure a fixed height and then we kind
Then
of
it
use.
depends on the interviewer whether he wants to know or not. Because in certain kind of interviews, let's say if I'm doing newsfeed, it is really very, very relevant. If I'm
Hmm.
doing something where it's not relevant, I would just want you to discuss it in high level. So always start with high level
Hmm.
and see if the user, if you get getting the signal from the user interview whether he wants to go to you in depth or not. So you can
Hmm.
always leave it at like this is the high level. If you let me know if you want me to go in depth, then you can go. If
Well,
you're confused, you can ask him that should
uh,
let me know if you want to go. If it's very much like newsfeed kind of application or autocomplete, you should definitely say it because there it's more relevant.
I wanted your opinion. That should I learn about it in depth, or
Yes,
is it
you can
being
because this can be asked for machine coding also. You should definitely
asked?
learn. In machine coding round, they can ask you to implement infinite explorer in that virtualization also.
Hmm. Got it.
All right. Anything else for the pole widget thing? Okay, I think we are good. So I'll upload this video. Hopefully, if it's a good video recorded, I mean, if there's no technical issues, I'll upload it on YouTube. I'll share it. I'll share this XKD draw, export it, and share it. You can do it right away, I guess. Is it export? No. There was a share option over here. It's copy link. Where is the chat? List option. Yeah. So let me also stop recording.